Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. I have to tell you the truth. Those were the chilling words that echoed through the chaos as Holden was handcuffed and dragged toward the waiting patrol car, his voice breaking through the noise of sirens and shouting officers. What began as a tense standoff in the alley behind crimson lights exploded into one of the most jaw-dropping moments in Genoa City history, a shocking revelation that will forever change everything for Nick Newman and Sienna Brooks. The air was thick with tension, emotions raw, as Holden, pale, desperate, and trembling, turned his head toward Nick and screamed out the secret he'd been carrying for far too long: "She's not who you think she is." Those words didn't just hang in the air, they detonated like a bomb, leaving Nick speechless, frozen, and utterly unprepared for what came next. For weeks, viewers have watched the walls closing in on Holden, his lies and manipulation starting to unravel. His connection to Sienna had always been murky, but now it's finally clear that what they shared was built on deceit. As officers pressed him against the squad car, Holden's eyes locked on Nick, his voice cracking with urgency. "Her name isn't Sienna Brooks. That's not who she is," he yelled, fighting against the officer's grip. "She's been lying to you since the day she got here, Nick. Everything you think you know about her is a lie." The words hit Nick like a physical blow. For a man who has already endured betrayal, heartbreak, and loss, this new bombshell was almost too much to process. Nick stumbled back, his jaw tightening as he stared at the man being taken away. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, his voice shaking between anger and disbelief. Holden struggled, trying to break free just long enough to finish what he'd started. "Her name is Serena Maddox," he shouted. "She's not Sienna Brooks, she's Serena, and she's been hiding from her past." Gasps rippled through the small crowd of onlookers as Nick's eyes widened in horror. The name hit him with instant recognition. Serena Maddox was a name from a case long buried, tied to a family scandal involving corporate espionage, fraud, and even a mysterious disappearance years ago. The cops forced Holden into the car, but he refused to stop shouting. "She's been using you, Nick. She came here to find something, or someone." His words were frantic, but the desperation in his tone carried an undeniable truth. Sienna, or Serena, had built her life in Genoa City on a lie. She presented herself as a lost soul, a woman seeking a fresh start after heartbreak, but now her carefully constructed facade was crumbling before everyone's eyes. Nick turned toward Sharon, who had emerged from the cafe just in time to witness the arrest. Her eyes were wide, confusion and fear written across her face. "Nick, what did he just say?" she asked quietly. But Nick couldn't answer. His mind was racing back through every moment he'd shared with Sienna, every secret look, every tearful confession, every whispered promise that she'd explain everything someday. Now it was all clicking into place, and the picture wasn't pretty. Meanwhile, inside the car, Holden was still trying to speak through the rolled-up window, his voice muffled but intense. "Tell him the truth, Sienna. Tell him who you really are," he shouted, as officers slammed the door shut. The sound of it echoed like a gavel striking, the final judgment sealing both of their fates. Moments later, Sienna appeared at the edge of the crowd, her face pale and trembling. Her wide eyes darted toward Holden, then to Nick, who was staring at her like she was a stranger. "Nick, I can explain," she began, her voice breaking. But Nick cut her off sharply. "Explain what, Sienna?" he said bitterly. "Or should I say, Serena?" The name rolled off his tongue like venom. Sienna froze, tears welling in her eyes as she realized there was no escape this time. The secret she'd fought to bury was out, and it was Holden who'd dug it up in his final act of defiance. The scene quickly turned emotional as Sienna broke down, whispering, "I never wanted you to find out like this." Her words only deepened Nick's pain. "You lied to me," he said, his voice cracking with disbelief. "You looked me in the eyes and lied to me every single day." Sienna tried to reach out, but he stepped back, his anger building. "Was any of it real? Or was I just part of your game?" Sienna's silence was answer enough. The truth had shattered everything. Holden's arrest might have put him in handcuffs, but it was Sienna who looked like she'd just been sentenced to a lifetime of regret. The weight of her deception pressed down on her as the officer's car pulled away, leaving a cloud of dust and a stunned silence behind. Later at the police station, Nick confronted Holden through the bars of his holding cell. "You wanted me to know the truth, now you're going to tell me everything," Nick demanded. Holden smirked faintly, blood still on his lip from the scuffle. "You should be thanking me," he said coldly. "That woman, she's dangerous. She's not who you think she is. She's been using you to cover her tracks." "Tracks for what?" Nick snapped. Holden's eyes darkened. Serena Maddox was accused of fraud, but that's not all. She was mixed up with people who'd kill to keep their secrets hidden, people she ran from. She changed her name, changed her past, but she couldn't change what she did. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "And now it's caught up to her." Nick's head was spinning. He didn't know whether to believe Holden, a known manipulator, or to trust the woman he thought he loved. But when Sharon arrived later with a file she'd found through Ray's old contacts at the GCPD, everything changed. Inside were documents, arrest records, mugshots, and a newspaper clipping, all under the name Serena Maddox. The photo was unmistakable. It was Sienna. The same eyes. The same face. Just a different name. That's when Nick realized Holden hadn't been lying this time. As much as he hated to admit it, Sienna really wasn't who she claimed to be. His heart sank as he whispered, "Oh my God, what have you done?" Back at her apartment, Sienna was pacing, tears streaming down her face. She knew the walls were closing in. Holden's betrayal had destroyed everything she'd built. She'd reinvented herself to escape her past, a past filled with pain, bad choices, and dangerous alliances. She'd run from it all, hoping for a second chance. And for a while, she had found peace, especially in Nick's arms. But now, that fragile happiness had turned to ashes. When Nick showed up at her door, she didn't even try to run. "It's true, isn't it?" he said quietly. Sienna's voice broke as she whispered, "Yes. My name is Serena Maddox. I used to work for a company that was laundering money. I didn't know at first, but when I tried to expose them, they framed me. I had to disappear, Nick, it was the only way to survive." Nick's eyes filled with pain and disbelief. "And you thought lying to me was the way to fix that?" Sienna nodded, tears falling freely. "I was going to tell you," she insisted. "I just needed more time. But Holden, he wasn't supposed to find me." Nick's voice hardened. "You brought him here, didn't you? He knew who you were all along." She shook her head. "No, I swear. He found me by accident. He wanted money, he wanted to blackmail me. I tried to handle it, but..." She trailed off, collapsing onto the couch. "Now he's destroyed everything." Nick's heart broke as he watched her sob, but his anger still burned beneath the surface. "You destroyed everything," he said quietly. "Holden may have shouted your secret, but you're the one who made it a secret in the first place." His words sliced through her like glass. In the days that followed, Genoa City was buzzing with gossip. Everyone wanted to know who the real Sienna, or Serena, really was. Victor Newman began digging into her background, while Sharon warned Nick to be careful. "If she's running from something dangerous," Sharon said softly, "then you could be next." Meanwhile, Holden sat in jail, smugly satisfied that he'd taken Sienna down with him. "She thought she could outrun her past," he told an officer, smirking. "But you can't hide forever." His words echoed through the walls, haunting Sienna's every thought. By the week's end, Sienna made a fateful decision. She walked into the police station, trembling, and told the officer on duty, "I'm here to turn myself in." The camera lingered on her tear-streaked face as she whispered, "My name is Serena Maddox." Nick watched from the hallway, torn apart inside. Despite everything, the lies, the betrayal, he still loved her. But as the door closed behind her, he knew there was no going back. Holden's arrest had started a chain reaction that exposed more than just Sienna's identity. It exposed the fragile truth about love, trust, and redemption. And as Holden sat in his cell, staring at the wall, he smiled darkly. "I told you, Nick," he murmured to himself. "She's not who you think she is." But what Holden didn't know was that this was just the beginning. Sienna's past, her real past, was about to come crashing into Genoa City in ways that would leave everyone reeling. There are still secrets buried deep in her history, names she's never spoken, and enemies who aren't done with her yet. Holden's arrest might have been the end of his freedom, but for Sienna, or Serena, it marked the beginning of a reckoning she could no longer avoid. Nick stood alone outside the station, staring into the night, replaying Holden's haunting words. "She's not who you think she is." But what scared him most wasn't that Holden was right, it was that deep down, a part of him still wanted to believe in Sienna, no matter who she really was. The morning after Holden's arrest, Genoa City was buzzing with whispers that refused to die down. Every coffee shop, every hallway at Newman Enterprises, every corner of the Grand Phoenix was alive with the same question: who is Serena Maddox, and why did Holden risk everything to expose her? Nick sat at the kitchen table of the Newman Ranch, his hands clasped around a mug of cold coffee he hadn't touched. He hadn't slept. Sharon had stopped by earlier, urging him to eat something, but he couldn't. The images from last night played on a loop in his mind: Holden shouting her real name, Sienna's tear-streaked face, the look of betrayal in his own reflection when he'd caught sight of himself in the cafe window. It didn't feel real, and yet the truth had a way of digging in deep, refusing to let go. Across town, Sienna, or Serena, sat in a gray interrogation room, her wrists cuffed loosely in front of her. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting a harsh glow on her exhausted face. She hadn't stopped crying since she walked in. She'd confessed her name, but not yet her story. And now, she was about to tell it all, the full, unfiltered truth she'd hidden for years. Detective Chance Chancellor entered the room, a folder in his hand. He'd known Sienna for months, or thought he had. "You've got a lot of people out there asking questions," he said gently, taking a seat across from her. "I need you to help me understand, Serena. Why hide who you are?" Sienna swallowed hard, her voice trembling as she began. "It started 5 years ago, in Chicago. I was working for a tech firm called Cormac Industries. I thought I'd made it, good job, great salary, my own apartment. Then I started noticing irregularities in our accounting system. Funds being moved offshore, fake clients. I reported it to my boss, and the next day, my apartment was broken into. Everything I had, gone. My computer, my files, my ID." Chance leaned forward, listening intently as she continued. "They told me to keep quiet or I'd regret it. I thought it was just a scare tactic, until my best friend, Layla, was found dead. It was ruled a car accident, but it wasn't. I knew too much. I panicked. So I ran." Her voice cracked as she spoke, her eyes darting toward the mirror, knowing Nick was probably on the other side, listening. "I changed my name to Sienna Brooks. I moved from city to city until I found Genoa City. I thought, maybe I could finally stop running." Nick stood behind the mirrored glass, his hands pressed against it, his chest tight. Everything she said sounded sincere, and horrifyingly real. Sharon, standing beside him, whispered, "Nick, if that's true, she wasn't lying to hurt you. She was trying to survive." But Nick's jaw clenched. "She still lied," he said, his voice heavy. "To me, to everyone. She didn't trust me enough to tell the truth, and now look where that got us." Back inside the interrogation room, Chance flipped open the folder. "We ran your fingerprints through the system. There's a warrant out for your arrest in Illinois: embezzlement, corporate theft, obstruction." Sienna's face went white. "That's not true," she cried. "They set me up. They framed me for the money that went missing. I tried to stop them, and they made it look like I stole it." Chance sighed. "If that's true, then you'll need evidence. And right now, all we've got is your word against theirs." At that moment, the door opened, and in walked Victor Newman. His very presence filled the room, his sharp eyes assessing the broken woman before him. "I had to see for myself what kind of woman could deceive my son like this," Victor said coldly. "You played a dangerous game, Miss Maddox." Sienna flinched, tears streaming down her face. "Mr. Newman, I didn't mean to hurt Nick. I fell in love with him before I ever meant to. I was going to tell him, I swear." Victor held up a hand, silencing her. "Love doesn't erase lies," he said. "You've put my son, and this family, in danger. Whoever you're running from will find you here, and when they do, they'll bring chaos with them." He turned to Chance. "Make sure she doesn't leave town." Hours later, Nick finally entered the room. The moment their eyes met, both froze, an invisible wall between them, built from pain, love, and betrayal. "Nick," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, just let me explain." He sat down across from her, his expression unreadable. "You already did," he said softly. "I just can't tell if any of it's real." "It's real," she said desperately. "I swear it. Every word, every moment with you, it was real. I didn't want to lie, but I didn't know how to stop. Every time I looked at you, I saw the life I wanted. The life I didn't think I deserved." Nick looked down, struggling to hold himself together. "Do you have any idea what it's like to find out the person you love isn't even who they say they are?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I defended you, Sienna. I believed in you when no one else did. And now I don't even know your real name." She leaned forward, tears spilling onto the table. "Then don't call me Serena or Sienna," she whispered. "Call me the woman who loves you. Because that's who I really am." Nick's eyes softened, but only for a second. He stood up, his voice breaking. "Love doesn't erase the truth." Then, without another word, he walked out, leaving Sienna shattered. Later that night, Holden was transferred from the local jail to a holding facility. But before he was taken away, Chance got word that Holden had requested to make one phone call, and that call changed everything. "Get me Michael Baldwin," Holden told the officer. "I've got information about Cormac Industries, and about Serena Maddox." When Michael arrived, Holden smirked. "You want to know the truth about your fugitive? Fine. I was part of it. I worked for Cormac. But she wasn't innocent, counselor. She played both sides. She helped them move the money before she turned on them. Don't let her fool you, she's no victim." Michael's eyes narrowed. "And why should I believe anything you say?" Holden leaned forward. "Because if she talks, they'll come for me next. And trust me, they don't leave loose ends." Back at the police station, Sienna sat alone in her cell, staring at the small barred window. The night was quiet, except for the distant hum of the city. She thought about Nick, about how his face had looked when he called her Serena. The sound of her real name on his lips hurt more than any punishment could. Suddenly, there was a commotion down the hall. Chance rushed in, his phone pressed to his ear. "What?" "Say that again," he demanded. His face went pale. "They did what?" He hung up and turned toward the other officers. Holden's transport was ambushed. "The van's gone." Sienna's heart stopped. "What do you mean, gone?" Chance's eyes met hers. Whoever Holden was working with just broke him out. Within minutes, the station erupted in chaos. Officers ran to secure the exits, but it was too late. Holden was gone, and with him went the only man who knew the full truth about Cormac Industries, and about Serena's past. Hours later, Nick got the call. "Holden escaped," he said in disbelief. "How?" Chance's voice was tense. "We don't know. But if he's coming after anyone, it's her." Nick's protective instincts kicked in immediately. "I'm coming down there," he said, grabbing his coat. At the same time, Sienna sat trembling in her cell, fear taking over. "He's coming for me," she whispered. "He'll kill me before he lets me talk." The following evening, the unthinkable happened. the power went out at the station. In the confusion, an officer's flashlight beam caught a shadow moving near the back exit. Before anyone could react, a shot rang out. Sienna screamed as a masked figure appeared, Holden. His face was bruised, his eyes wild. "You couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you?" he hissed. Chance drew his weapon, shouting, "Drop it, Holden." But Holden ignored him, lunging toward Sienna's cell. "You think you can run again? You think you can tell them what we did?" he growled. Before he could pull the trigger, Nick appeared, slamming into him from the side. The gun clattered to the floor, a shot echoing through the corridor. Chaos erupted as officers tackled Holden to the ground. Nick turned to Sienna, breathing hard. "Are you okay?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded, her voice breaking. "You came back." Nick swallowed hard, his hand still trembling from adrenaline. "I couldn't let him hurt you," he said softly. Holden was dragged away again, shouting, "You'll regret this, Nick. You don't know what she's done." But this time, his words didn't hold the same power. His reign of manipulation was finally over. When the dust settled, Sienna and Nick found themselves alone again, separated by the bars of her cell. She looked at him through the metal, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't deserve you coming back for me." Nick sighed, stepping closer. "Maybe not," he said honestly. "But I couldn't just stand by and do nothing." She smiled weakly through her tears. "That's who you are. That's why I fell in love with you." Nick's eyes softened, but his heart was still torn in two. "If we're going to have any chance at moving forward," he said quietly, "it has to start with the truth. No more secrets." Sienna nodded, determination shining through her fear. "Then I'll give you everything. The names, the files, the proof. I'm done running." Over the next several days, she worked with Chance and Michael Baldwin to turn over evidence she'd hidden years ago, encrypted drives, bank records.